In the vast expanse of fiction, few characters resonate as profoundly as Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan and Paul Atreides from Dune. These two figures, molded by unforgiving worlds, embark on journeys that blur the line between savior and tyrant, hero and villain. As we unravel their stories, we must ask ourselves, what does it mean to be a devil messiah? Every messiah has an origin, a crucible in which their fate is forged. For Eren Yeager, the catalyst is the destruction of his home, the loss of his mother, and the revelation that he lives in a cage. Driven by an all-consuming desire for freedom, Eren transforms from a hopeful boy into a force capable of shaking the world. Paul Atreides, on the other hand, is thrust into destiny from birth. As the heir of House Atreides, he is raised in a world of political intrigue and burdened with expectations. Yet his true awakening begins on the desert planet of Arrakis, where the spice melange unlocks visions of a future drenched in blood. Both Eren and Paul are shaped by tragedy and prophecy. Yet while Eren's transformation is fueled by rage and a yearning for liberation, Paul's is driven by a reluctant acceptance of his role in a universe that demands a messiah. Prophecy. It is both a gift and a curse, a vision of the future that offers no solace. Eren Yeager's journey takes a dark turn when he inherits the memories of the attacked Titan. He sees flashes of a grim future, a world where freedom comes at a cost too great to bear. These visions become an obsession, a chain that binds his soul. Paul Atreides, too, is tormented by visions of a jihad, a holy war that will be waged in his name. His prescient abilities, heightened by the spice of Arrakis, show him a galaxy consumed by fire and blood, a consequence of his rise to power. Unlike Eren, who embraces his destiny with grim determination, Paul is horrified, trying in vain to escape the future he dreads. Yet both characters come to realize the same bitter truth. The future is a trap. Whether they fight or yield, the path they tread leads to ruin. Eren Yeager's transformation is both physical and ideological. As he gains control of the founding Titan, he becomes a symbol of terror and hope, a figure who will do anything to achieve freedom for his people, even if it means trampling on the rest of the world. Paul Atreides, too, becomes a figure of awe and fear. As the Kwisatz Haderach, he commands the loyalty of the freemen and wields power that can reshape civilizations. Yet he knows that his ascent will bring unimaginable suffering. The desert, both a sanctuary and a prison, is a backdrop to his transformation. In their worlds, Eren and Paul embody the devil messiah, a savior whose actions are tainted by sin, a leader whose vision demands sacrifice. But what drives them to embrace this role? For Eren, the idea of freedom is both pure and tainted. He begins his journey fighting for those he loves, but as he learns more about the world's cruelty, his definition of freedom becomes absolute, even if it means annihilation. His internal struggle, portrayed through moments of vulnerability, reveals the boy who still mourns, who wonders if there was ever a different path. Paul's motivations are laced with a sense of duty and foreboding. Unlike Eren, who dives headfirst into his fate, Paul is a reluctant messiah. He seeks a way out, but every decision pulls him deeper into the web of destiny. His struggle is one of denial and resignation, a dance with fate that he cannot win. Both characters grapple with the same existential question. Is it better to be a monster who saves or a savior who destroys? Even in their darkest moments, love remains a tether to their humanity. For Eren, the bond he shares with Mikasa and Armin is a painful reminder of what he fights for and what he may lose. His love becomes both a strength and a weakness, a reason to live and a burden that breaks him. Paul's love for Chani, meanwhile, is a rare source of solace. Yet, as he rises to power, he understands that love cannot save him from his destiny. In a universe that demands sacrifice, love is a fragile thing, a beautiful illusion in the face of inevitability. These relationships humanize our messiahs, reminding us that even those who wield the power of gods are haunted by the need for love and acceptance. Both Eren Yeager and Paul Atreides come to embody the archetype of the devil messiah, a savior figure who brings change through chaos and destruction rather than peace and harmony. But what makes this archetype so compelling is the paradox it carries: the savior who must also become a destroyer, the redeemer who must descend into darkness. In the case of Eren Yeager, the Devil Messiah's legacy is soaked in blood and horror. The rumbling, his most terrifying act, is a cataclysmic event that wipes out millions. Yet it is not merely an act of senseless brutality. It is a calculated effort to give his people a chance at survival, however fleeting. Eren's transformation from an innocent boy to a genocidal force of nature marks his legacy as one of immense tragedy, a cautionary tale about the price of freedom and the corruption of once noble ideals. Eren's legacy, however, is not black and white. For those he sought to protect, he remains a martyr, a misunderstood hero whose willingness to become a monster was his ultimate sacrifice. But for those who suffered, he is a figure of nightmares, a cautionary symbol of vengeance unchecked and power run amok. Paul Atreides too wears the crown of the Devil Messiah, though his legacy sprawls across a galactic stage. By embracing the mantle of Muad'Dib, Paul empowers the freemen, but this empowerment births a religious fervor that spirals out of control. His prescient visions, a gift and a curse, show him the bloodshed that will follow. Yet he presses on, believing that only through his guidance can humanity survive the trials to come. Unlike Eren, Paul sees the horror of his legacy unfolding even as he tries to prevent it. He becomes both a liberator and a tyrant, a god worshipped by billions, but also feared for the jihad waged in his name. His attempts to mitigate the damage only enmesh him further in a web of violence and divine prophecy, a prisoner of the myth he created. The Devil Messiah archetype asks us to reflect on the inherent flaws of heroism when viewed through the lens of power and ambition. Eren and Paul are not merely victims of their circumstances, they actively shape their fates, for better or worse. Yet their choices force us to ponder whether change, when stained with innocent blood, is ever worth the cost. Their legacies are testaments to the dangerous allure of messianic figures and the inevitable downfall that accompanies unchecked power and ambition. Symbolism runs deep in both Attack on Titan and Dune, painting vivid pictures of worlds trapped by cycles of oppression and the unrelenting march of destiny. The walls of Paradise Island symbolize the fragile security that shields the Eldians from the world beyond. Yet these walls also become their prison, reflecting the illusion of safety. Arrakis, with its endless deserts, represents both desolation and life. The spice melange, the universe's most coveted resource, flows through its sands like blood, controlling the fate of empires. The sandworms, monstrous and sacred, embody the duality of nature, beauty and terror intertwined. Through such symbols, both worlds reveal truths about power, greed, and the cyclical nature of history. Both Eren and Paul navigate these landscapes, their journeys underscored by the metaphorical weight of their surroundings. In a way, their worlds are not just backdrops, but active players in their destinies. Revolution is at the heart of Eren and Paul's stories. Eren leads a revolution against the Marleyan oppressors, a fight born from centuries of hatred and fear. His actions ignite a worldwide conflict, forcing humanity to confront the question of who truly deserves to live and who must die. Paul, in contrast, becomes the catalyst for a revolution among the freemen, empowering them to overthrow their imperial oppressors. Yet his victory is not pure. It sows the seeds of intergalactic war and fanaticism. Both leaders spark movements that upend the existing order, but these movements come with moral dilemmas and heavy consequences. Revolutions are rarely clean or just, and both Eren and Paul find themselves as unwilling architects of new worlds, worlds built on the ashes of the old. What does it mean to leave behind a legacy? Eren Yeager's name becomes synonymous with fear and hope. To some, he is a monster who nearly ended humanity, but to others, he is a martyr who paid the ultimate price for freedom. His legacy, enshrined in the history of Eldia, is one that future generations will debate for eternity. Paul's legacy is even more complex. His rule as the Muad'Dib reshapes the galaxy, but it also leads to generations of violence and the worship of his image as a god. The name Atreides becomes a double-edged sword, a symbol of resistance and tyranny, salvation and damnation. Both legacies beg the question, can the ends ever justify the means? And if so, who has the right to decide? core of these stories lies a profound exploration of the human condition. Eren Yeager, despite his Titan powers and godlike influence, is still a boy who wanted to see the world beyond the walls. His deepest fear is not death, but the idea of never being free. His struggle is, in essence, the struggle of all humankind, the desire to break free from chains, whether literal or metaphorical. Paul Atreides, meanwhile, embodies the human yearning for purpose and control. His prescient visions make him almost omniscient, yet they strip him of agency, forcing him into a role he never asked for. His story reflects humanity's eternal struggle against fate, the question of whether we are the masters of our destiny or mere pawns in a cosmic game. In their deepest moments of vulnerability, Eren and Paul remind us that no matter how powerful one becomes, the burdens of being human, fear, love, hope, and despair never truly disappear. With great power comes the risk of corruption. Eren's power, derived from the Titans, warps his sense of morality. What begins as a desire for justice evolves into a near-apocalyptic vision, where he decides that only by destroying the world can his people be free. The allure of absolute power transforms him, and he crosses lines he once swore to uphold. Paul's power, rooted in both politics and mysticism, also comes at a price. As he becomes more entrenched in the role of the Kwisatz Haderach, he struggles to maintain his humanity. The line between a benevolent leader and a tyrant becomes ever thinner, and he finds himself making decisions that betray his initial values. Power corrupts, but what makes these stories compelling is that neither Eren nor Paul seeks power for power's sake. They are driven by a vision that ironically leads them to darkness. Sacrifice is a recurring theme in both Attack on Titan and Dune. Eren sacrifices his innocence, his friendships, and ultimately his humanity for the chance at a free world. His willingness to become a monster raises uncomfortable questions. Is it noble to sacrifice oneself if it means saving others, even if the cost is unthinkable? Paul's sacrifices are different but no less profound. He loses the life he dreamed of, the family he cherished, and the peace he craved. By choosing the path of the Kwisatz Haderach, he condemns himself to a fate he never wanted, all to fulfill a prophecy that leaves a trail of suffering in its wake. Both characters teach us that sacrifice, no matter how noble, always leaves scars on the world, on loved ones, and most painfully, on one's own soul. The stories of Eren Yeager and Paul Atreides are grand epics that explore the heights and depths of human ambition. They are stories about revolution, power, and the thin line between heroism and villainy. Both characters tread paths laden with moral ambiguity, paths that lead them to redefine what it means to be human. Eren's journey challenges us to reconsider the meaning of freedom and the destructive measures some will take to secure it. In his world, being a devil messiah means sacrificing everything, even one's humanity, for the slim hope of liberation. Paul, on the other hand, serves as a warning about the dangers of prophecy and the deification of leaders. His power, seemingly divine, carries with it the curse of inevitability, a future drenched in blood he cannot avoid. These narratives make us question the cost of leadership and the seduction of power. They remind us that even the most well-intentioned saviors can become destroyers. Perhaps the true legacy of Eren and Paul is not just the worlds they leave behind, but the understanding that every act of revolution and every claim to freedom carries a price, sometimes one that is far too great to bear. In the end, the Devil Messiah is a reflection of humanity's eternal struggle to rise above, to transcend limitations, and to grapple with the consequences of actions we once thought were righteous. It is a story as old as time and as relevant as ever.